We've got Arjun Sethi, co-CEO of Kraken. Thanks so much for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When I was kind of talking to you beforehand and preparing for this, one of the interesting topics was about the blurring of the line between cryptocurrency exchange and traditional finance, and what we've been talking about all day here, and what has been kind of the foundational layer of a traditional financial bank trading platform. Tell me kind of where you guys sit now when it comes to this blurring of the line between fintech, cryptocurrency exchange, and what some would define as traditional finance.
I think the largest issue that people have had with maybe just the word crypto for so long is similar to how you think about machine learning or AI, which is that it has to be so special that it's in its own category. And I think it works during some sort of hype cycle. But the most important part that we think about today, at least, is that yes, we're an exchange. We have a trade engine on top of it, and we have a central order book, liquidity matching, et cetera. But like today, our customer base is professional traders, but they allow us to do something that in traditional markets you're not able to, which is we built a payments layer, database, security system, lending protocol, margin pool, custody. So you kind of have these multiple businesses, and you have to decide which one is the most important on behalf of your clients. The second phase to that is that you are providing like natural products and services to someone who wants to send payroll or send payments or store or save their assets or trade and invest. And I think when we think about the products that we deliver, we're not thinking about crypto, we're thinking about who's the customer and what are the services that we're trying to deliver. So for a trader, we're trying to make sure we have the best exchange. For someone who's saving money, we want to make sure that they can save and have yield on it. For someone who wants to borrow and use that collateral to be able to lend, then how do we sort of facilitate that between what we do as an exchange today and then what we can do in different parts of the stack. So we use the words today to make it easier for people to understand, which is how you bridge the gap between traditional finance and how do you bridge the gap between DeFi, and we sit in the middle. But it's really just what are your financial products that you're delivering to the customer, and how do you facilitate that, and is it under one exchange, one house, one brand, a set of products, whatever it may be. We're just kind of starting that journey.
Right, and you guys have made acquisitions to that end to kind of broaden that out, right? It was NinjaTrader, you guys acquired them fairly recently.
That's right, yeah. So part of crypto, which has been so problematic for so long, is that there hadn't been any clear regulatory sort of roadmap or purview of like what does it mean to trade crypto or these currencies. And so you would go into a certain region and you would think about, okay, do I need an MTL license? Do I need a banking license? Do I need a payments license? So on and so forth. So we were kind of the first to do that in 2011, 2012, 2013, which is okay, great. If we're going to enter Europe, how do we make sure that we can get capital from the customer? How do we move it from fiat to crypto? How do we let them trade it from crypto to crypto? And how do we bring it back to fiat? And then how do we let them take it out in cash? And it sounds like simple. It's extremely complicated when
Doesn't sound simple to me.
But like when you go from region to region, state to state, border to border, it becomes much harder. So we spent the last 10 years just building that system out, which ended up being like pretty a good business to be able to just start what it means to trade on behalf of our customers today.
Right. So let's talk about NinjaTrader specifically. I mean, how does that kind of smooth that?
So NinjaTrader is one of the largest retail trading, like I want to say, venues and views on top of the CME, and so just futures contracts on top of commodities. But they have their FCM license. So our ability to come into the United States with new crypto products was one of the reasons why we did the acquisition. And vice versa, is taking their products, using our rails, and being able to offer it all over the world, given that you've seen what I call the rise of active and professional traders over the last 20 years. And it's not that many customers, right? Like we're trying to serve counterparties we're talking about as 2 million to 4 million, and then maybe over the next 10 years, it's going to be 20 million. But they're what I call the heartbeat of our ecosystem, which allows us to build products for then millions of customers to billions of customers over a certain horizon.
What's like in the next cohort of customers you guys are interested in?
It's everybody worldwide. So if you take a look at the mission of Kraken, it's been to be able to provide crypto to everyone. But I think that nuance is really important. It's like, what does it allow you to do? It allows you to be Private allows you to be secure, handle your own capital. And so the product and services are not just an exchange. The exchange allows us to do product 1, product 2, product 3. And I think it's very synonymous to how you would think about Meta, where they have multiple products and you're serving different communities. There's some Venn diagram overlap, and we're doing the same thing, which is we've got our exchange, we've got our traders, and then we've got our consumers worldwide that we also cater to.
Yeah. When you look at the regulatory landscape right now, it's been a big topic of conversation so far. Where do things stand right now? I mean, you and others have had to go through your trials with the SEC. I don't mean literal trials, but the trials and tribulations of dealing with the SEC. That's all been settled. So it seems like we're in an environment now where people are more willing to embrace what you guys do and kind of have less punitive relations with these companies. I mean, where do you see it post your settlement with the SEC?
Yeah, I think if I take, so I mean, I wear different hats, right? And one of the, like, if you were to tell me that you would have to deal with DOJ, FBI, SEC, Interpol, ATF, DEA, like every single agency. And
ATF, where were they getting in there?
Well, I mean, like crypto is like synonymous with just like moving money around, right? So you're thinking about money laundering. You're thinking about like narcotics that might be moving from place to place.
That makes perfect sense.
It's just money, right?
Yeah.
And so there are rules to the road in terms of like what type of commerce goes between borders, and so you are working with government agencies probably at a larger scale than what most companies may not have to. And so to think that like you're working with these agencies while they're attacking you over the last 10 years is like it's kind of mind-boggling when you're thinking about it from a technology perspective. But I do think people forget that the concept of sending money over the internet was illegal, like almost 25 years ago. So it's not like we have gone that far away from like that sort of mindset that anything that is to be sent over the air could be deemed nefarious in some sense. So I think it's more, look, we're getting to a place where because we're getting more regulatory clarity, Europe is already there, parts of India and Asia and Southeast Asia are getting to the same place.
You think Europe is more progressive in this sense than the US?
In this specific case, the way in which they think about digital commerce and digital tokens, they've sort of carved out, this is digital token ecosystem. And so now let's get into design and implementation. Here in the US, we're still thinking about SEC, CFTC, what's a security, what's a commodity, et cetera, et cetera. So I think those nuances play a little bit differently here. But the point is that once you get to market stability, then you can start having innovation at a faster pace.
Yeah. Last thing on regulation. Which agency have you found to be the most problematic? Which one is dragging the most in terms of being willing to accept what you guys do and is still kind of bothersome?
I don't think it's an agency today, right? Like past, it's everybody. Today, everyone's just much more promoted to, okay, well, how does this work for my constituent? So I think it's more, you have traditional industries like the banks, and I think for them, crypto's a threat, right? Like when you think about savings and yield deposits, it's a different world for them and how they think about it. I mean, I would say that if there was any bad guy in any of the ecosystems today, it's definitely the banks.
And you think they're behind a lot of the pushes to kind of crack down on you guys?
It's not that I think. I mean, they say it themselves. It's pretty open.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, right? Like you've got a business model. It's inherently monopolistic. There's a smaller set of people. It's not just in the United States. You just look at every country, from the central bank all the way down to your local retail banks. Is that you want to protect your monopolistic tendency. And so if anyone's coming in with a product that is ridiculously better, and not by 10x, but like 100x or 1000x, you're going to try to fight as much as possible. But I also have a regulated bank in Mexico, and they think the same way, and I think the same way, which is like, hey, we spent all of this time and money and effort getting regulated. We spent all of this effort building this product. Why can someone come in and just swipe that away from me?
And they've gotten more or less hostile over time?
I think banks generally become more hostile as the products that they serve become under attack. And if you just forget crypto, if you take a look at fintech over the last 15 years, they've progressively had a harder and harder time adapting to any of the new rules, right? They make it harder for the open API, and I'm sure we'll hear some stuff from Plaid, but it's not like they made it easier. You had to push, and then they capitulated.
Yeah, and has the Trump administration followed through on some of their promises to kind of be more welcoming and reduce regulatory burden on crypto?
I think just the fact that they are embracing innovation and saying this is part of pro-America, pro-innovation, and crypto is a part of that. That's like the first step, similar to how I would think about AI. And so having a seat at the table, not just myself, but the whole industry, it's just a big deal. And so that creates more clarity around the regulators, how they want to work with us. I think SEC has become from like your worst enemy to your best friend, overnight. And I think that's like
That's the way you feel?
Absolutely. I think CFTC, SEC, OCC, and Treasury, the speed at which they're moving is, startup speed, like what we're used to here at Silicon Valley.
Right. I mean, I guess having suits dropped probably is a big way to kind of confirm that. Let's talk a bit about commodities and what's kind of hot right now on Kraken. We've been talking a lot about stablecoin today. If you have some thoughts on that, I guess we'd all love to hear it because that's the theme of the day. But are there any other assets that you're finding people are transacting more on Kraken?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why people are talking about stablecoins today is just, permissionless and accessible to everyone worldwide. So the whole concept of fintech has been how do you get access to capital, and then what do you do with that capital once you have it? So if you're in Argentina, Indonesia, if you're in parts of Africa, getting access to something that is stable is one, right? So it's like a hedge against inflation. So I'm not even talking about BTC or ETH and sort of those misnomers. It's more about like I want something stable, and then the next thing you're thinking about is like how do I save it? The next piece you're thinking about is how do I get access to quality products. Quality products are mostly U.S. equities. Then it's going to be commodities on top of that. That's not just in the U.S. but then worldwide. So if you really think about how
people are trading commodities on Kraken as well.
Well in the DeFi ecosystem they're trying, right? And so part of it is that you got these low volume trials. But you've got what I'd call fragmented liquidity. You have some people trying to do something and some people competing against it. I think where the innovation really flies is global liquidity. The reason why people are talking about stablecoins today is they have global liquidity, global usage, and there's like a standard behind it, just like you would think about any protocol. And so for us, we just serve what our clients need. So if our clients want to trade that collateral to move it like FX, we will be able to help enable that. If they're going to start thinking about wrapping tokenized security or equity, we're going to do that. If it's going to be a commodity, we're going to do that. If it's a utility, we're going to do that too.
Yeah. What's like a sleeper commodity? Not commodity. What's a sleeper currency or token that's being traded on the platform that you're seeing a lot more people getting excited about?
I don't think there's anything that's like sleeper. I think what's cool is that you've got like meme coins that start, and then I'd liken it more towards a form of expression, right? Like fart coin. It sounds ridiculous, but it's actually quite stable compared to like currencies that that are.
Because everything is stable relative to something else.
Absolutely, right? And so, would I rather have a fart coin or would I have the Argentinian?
We're not saying buy fart coin. We're just saying, relatively speaking.
I'd buy it. I think
you would.
It's worth
Okay.
it. Yeah.
There you go.
But like then there's the Bitcoin networks, and there's their meme coins through the Rune protocol. There's just a whole slew of things where they're innovating, and I think. One thing to take is there's form of expressions, there's forms of technology, and there's forms of innovation. And then what can you do with that is more where we like to get more involved in parts of those projects.
What is the long-term value of a meme coin, though? I mean, like, why do they persist?
I think it's the same way in which you would think about a Pokemon card, or like I get carpets or rugs or art. If I keep going down the list, you're going to get to a place where something is more meaningful to someone else, but it may not be meaningful to you.
Same. There's probably a lot of overlap there between Pokemon card collectors and meme coin transactors.
I mean, I'd beg to differ. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think one way to think about it is there's just different generations of folks. So a good example is we bought NinjaTrader. And NinjaTrader, folks that are traditionally older, mostly male, all over the world that are professional traders. And then for our Kraken Pro products, it's not like 70-30, it's 60-40, where all of a sudden we have 40% that are female that are also trading, and I would say like collecting or investing, they might have different attitudes. And then on the consumer side, it flips, where it's like 70% female and it's 30% male. So I think.
Why do you think that is?
I think just different regions, different sophistication level. So for example, I always keep talking about South America, but you have the man and the woman in the house, and then they're both working. And then the female in some of these regions are the ones that control, they're like the CFO of the house. And so they're the ones that are investing, they're the ones that are thinking about savings and yield. So there are customers in those regions.
Got it. Fascinating. Man, we should talk more about this off stage. I'd love to know more. All right, Arjun, thank you so much for this. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you.